Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to Pete's Quarter Life Crisis. In this episode, we're going to talk about the year 1863. Often, when I pick up coins and I like to think about when that coin was minted, what was happening in the world, what was happening in the United States, and it's fun to look up things that happened. So, in this specific one, we're going to be talking about Santa Claus, or more specifically, how Santa Claus came to be known in the United States. And the year I picked is 1863. There's lots of years you could have picked. For instance, St. Nicholas was born in 280 AD, and he was known as a saint because supposedly he inherited wealth and gave it all away to the poor and sick. How it got over to the United States and known a little bit better. So in December of 1773, a group of Dutch families gathered to honor the anniversary of St. Nicholas's death. Back then, they knew him as Sinterklaas, so it's easy to see how we got to Santa Claus of now. And a New York newspaper published that gathering of those families, and everybody found it interesting, and it happened the next year as well. And so if we move along, in 1823, a famous poem was written that we all know as The Night Before Christmas. So the person that wrote that, his name was Clement Clarke Moore, and the poem was originally titled A Visit from St. Nicholas. And he only wrote it for his family. He never wanted to publish it, and he never actually, in fact, admitted to publishing it. But evidently, his wife loved the poem so much she gave it to all of their friends, I guess, and it got submitted anonymously to the New York Sentinel, and we know it today. So it's kind of interesting to think that, you know, a piece of literature that almost every child can recite verbatim in the United States was never actually meant to be read by anybody other than one person's family. Anyhow, we get to the date, 1863, and I picked that date because that is when the modern Santa Claus image that we know today was born. And what happened was a magazine called Harper's Weekly hired a 21-year-old Thomas Nast who drew a picture of Santa Claus bringing gifts to troops fighting in the American Civil War. And previous to that, Santa was mostly drawn in bishop's robes or looked like a tall old guy with a pointy hat, but he was never what the modern image of Santa that we know today. So let's take a quick couple look at some of those images that Thomas Nast drew. I think they were pretty cool. We're going to start with, that's kind of the overview of the ones he drew, but this is the first one. This is the 1863 image of Santa visiting the troops, bringing gifts. It looks like a little toy doll. I'm not sure what the soldiers would do with the toy doll, but maybe one got socks. That was probably a little bit more important back then. So apparently he drew these images of Santa for around 20 years. So I kind of have a short progression of them. And this is in 1866. He evolves a little bit. In 73, this is a pretty iconic Santa coming out of the chimney. And in, what is this, 1874, Santa on top of the roof, the fireplace. And this is 1881, and this is probably the most iconic looking Santa of them all. Carrying toys. I mean, maybe our Santa doesn't smoke a pipe anymore, but that's a relatively new change, I suppose. And I'd like to just finish with, here's the whole progression of the Santa images from the Civil War, moving all the way to 1881. And there's a couple later ones as well, but these are the ones that I found the most interesting. So that's the reason I picked the year 1863. That's the year that the Santa Claus image was born. So next time you pick up a coin, look at the date that it was minted. You know, maybe think about what was happening that year. Look it up. or come watch a couple more videos with me at Pete's Quarter Life Crisis. Thanks for watching. See you, everyone.